Rocks and cliffs form a key part of landscape painting, but many people seem to struggle with painting them. This is probably due to the organic and irregular shapes they come in, combined with a lack of understanding about light and shadow. I walk you through how to paint rocks and cliffs, using some stunning master paintings to help demonstrate my points. I am grouping rocks and cliffs together because the process is basically the same for both. Ask yourself, what is the purpose of the rocks and cliffs? The first thing you should consider when painting rocks and cliffs are their overall purpose in the context of your painting. Will they be key features? Will they be for atmosphere and context? Will they be used to lead people into the painting? Will they merely be used to take up space? The purpose of the rocks and cliffs will dictate the level of attention you give them. For example, if there are some insignificant rocks in the corner of your vast landscape, you could get away with using simple detail. But if the rocks are the focus, like in the painting below, you need to give them more attention. Break the rocks and cliffs down to basic forms, boxes, cylinders and spheres. Before you start to consider color and light, you should think about the construction of the rocks and cliffs. Try to break them down into the most basic forms of boxes, cylinders and spheres. This will make the rocks and cliffs appear more manageable and organized. Paul Cézanne once said, "Everything in nature is formed upon the sphere, the cone and the cylinder." One must learn to paint these simple figures and then one can do all that he may wish. I prefer to replace the cone with a box, but the idea is still the same. It is all about taking the vast amount of information which is in front of us and simplifying it down to something we can easily understand. Color and light. With the basic forms established, you can start to bring in color and light. I group color and light together because you should really think about them hand in hand. Without light, there is no color, and if you try to use color without considering light, then your colors will probably end up looking muddy and awkward. First, you should gain an understanding of the light which illuminates your subject. Try to answer these questions. Where is the light coming from? What is the dominant light source? Are there any secondary light sources? How strong is the light? What is the color temperature of the light? How much reflected light is there? Your answers to these questions will help you establish a theme for your lights and darks. Here are some common scenarios. You are painting under the midday sun. In this case, the light will be strong and overhead. It will also be slightly warm in color temperature. There will also be a secondary light from the blue sky, which will be cool in temperature. In this case, I would paint a strong contrast between warm lights and cool shadows. I would also use colors which closely match the local colors of the rocks and cliffs, usually dull oranges and browns. You are painting on an overcast day. In this case, the light will be diffused by the clouds. I would use less contrast, muted colors and perhaps warm shadows, depending on what I actually observe. Once you have established your theme, you basically need to identify the sides of the rocks and cliffs which are being hit by light and the sides which are not. Of course, you also have to account for midtones and different types of shadows, but the most important part is broadly identifying the lights and darks. From there you can paint in the cast shadows, reflected light, core shadow, midtones and highlights. This is where simplifying the forms comes in handy, as you will be able to easily identify the major light and dark planes. Without simplification, it would be incredibly difficult to make sense of all the tiny changes from light to dark on the surfaces of the rocks and cliffs. Every time there is a change in the plane of your rocks and cliffs, there should be a change in color. But what you will find is that planes which share similar angles to the light will share similar colors, provided that are the same local color. Identifying the light and dark accents. To add a finishing touch to the rocks and cliffs, I usually go over with light and dark accents. These are small bursts of light or dark color which contrast against the base colors. These accents give a lot of information about the light which is hitting the subject. Light accents, or highlights, are usually the result of light bouncing directly off an object. In terms of rocks, you will usually not have many really strong highlights. Dark accents will be areas where very little light is getting to, such as reflected light or direct light from the sun. Think of dark cracks or areas around the base of a rock. You need to make sure you place the accents where they make sense. Placing a dark accent where light appears to be hitting would not make sense, nor would placing a light accent in a dark shadow. I often paint my accents last because I find if I paint them early on, then I spend the rest of the painting time trying to preserve them. To me, it makes more sense to paint the midtones in first. But I know many artists like to start with the lightest light and darkest dark. At the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. Dealing with water. Water can add an element of complexity to painting rocks and cliffs, especially if you are painting rocks which are submerged in water. That wet appearance can be created by reducing the contrast, adding a hint of blue or whatever color the water is, and using richer colors. For painting submerged rocks, you can further hint at the presence of water by painting some ripples over the top with a lighter color. Painting the illusion of numbers. Small rocks usually come in vast numbers. How do you go about painting thousands of rocks? You don't, at least not with much detail. To paint the illusion of numbers, you should paint a base which roughly matches what you are painting, then indicate a few rocks on top of this base. Our eyes will do the rest of the work. Thank you for feeling our sharing. You can make a picture for yourself as a souvenir, for your friends, relatives. Or now, if you want to make a surprise gift for your dearest ones. You can give this great job to us. Please send us your most favorite photo and we will choose the best artists to convert into a work of art by hand painting. Your loved one will certainly be very happy to have this meaningful gift. Right now, click on the link below the description. And enjoy! If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more or share to help more people. Thank you so much. I attached link below description. Access now and follow it. Thank you.